So what is a shamanic journey? A shamanic journey is a trance state or an altered state of consciousness, very similar to a hypnotic state, also quite similar in some ways to an ayahuasca journey, a psilocybin mushroom journey, or even an LSD journey. However, a shamanic journey is not using these chemicals that force you into this realm, but it is a voluntary going into these realms. And if you don't feel comfortable going into these realms, even if you think you feel comfortable, but you start to go into them with me, if for whatever reason you feel like pulling back or not entering into, then you won't. It's that simple. You ultimately have the power to go with me or not. And so it's not forcing you into these realms as you would with the chemicals that come from these medicinal journeys. And so in this way, it's a more gentle way of accessing these mental realms or these spiritual realms. And so when I take you into this journey, I have in place many layers of protection for you. And these layers of protection will ensure that when you are there, you are only receiving what is helpful, what is good, and what you are looking for, which is help or counsel. And so in these journeys, you may encounter spirits. They can be spirits of yourself, like a higher self or a more realized self. They may be religious figures. You may encounter a Jesus character or a Buddha or whatever faith story happens to really ring your bell. And it may be an ancestor. This happens a lot, where people will meet up with a grandparent or any relative that has passed on, or even relatives that are still alive. You can run into all kinds of beings there. Whoever shows up for you is who you wanted to show up in these places, because I take you only to these places where you have the power, where you have the safety, where you have control. And that's the good thing about these shamanic journeys. It is entirely voluntary. If you, for whatever reason, decide you don't want to be there anymore, you can just leave. Whereas if you are on a mushroom journey or an ayahuasca journey, you're going to finish it out no matter what. And so these shamanic journeys are a very gentle way of accessing these spiritual realms that you wish to connect with in order to ask questions about your future or decisions that you have to make, or to be encouraged, or to find resolution. A lot of times people will meet up, I've heard it many times, people meet up with an animal that had passed on and maybe they didn't quite get a good chance to say goodbye to. And so this happens a lot, where their beloved pet shows up to them and they get to play one last time. It can also be an ancestor that maybe you needed to communicate with, and maybe that had passed on, that you hadn't finished whatever business you had with them. And so it is a great way for reconciliation, for finding peace and solace. It is also a great way to find confirmation about decisions that you have made or are currently making in your life, or the direction that you are headed in your life. But we must always remember that what happens in these shamanic journeys are visions. They are like poetry or symbols. We want to be careful not to overthink them, not to take them literally, but to interpret them as if they are poetry or symbols. meaning that they aren't concrete, you must do this or you must do that. That is not what, I've never heard that actually from anyone who's gone on to these shamanic journeys with me. And then I have been entering into these realms of spirit for well over 30 years now. And some of the things that I've taken from there, I've definitely misinterpreted, and it has caused definitely some difficulties in my life. But that's because I took them too seriously. I took them to be too concrete and not symbolic. And so I encourage you to join me in these shamanic journeys and have this mystical experience of connecting with a spirit. But remember that it is symbolic, it is poetic. These are things that must be interpreted and very loosely. So what is a shamanic journey? It's a journey into your spiritual realm, not mine, not somebody else's. It is fully yours and yours alone.